Right now, we'll call this meeting to order. Melvin, can you call it, please?
Mr. McNulty.
Here.
Mr. Lottie.
Here.
Ms. Sundar.
Here.
Mr. Pierce. Here. Ms. Foster.
Here. We are here to talk about zoning application ZON-26-01. This is Oak Knoll. Robin, you have it?
I do, Mr. McNulty. Thank you for asking. So I'll go ahead and give the staff report for the zoning case ZON-26-01. The applicant, the owner of the property is Real Property Design and Development. Property is located at 6980 South State Road. There are two parcels, total of 8.34 acres. Zoning is farm residential or FR1. The applicant is requesting to rezone that acreage from FR1 to allow for 17 single-family homes. The existing home on the property today would remain. The other 16 homes would be new construction. This property, if it's familiar, was previously the subject of rezoning application ZON-25-07, requesting rezoning to the single-family plan residential district, Crescent PRD. The Orange Township Board of Trustees denied that rezoning in their hearing on April 15th of this year. Following that denial, the applicant has resubmitted to a new rezoning application to the Planning and Development Zone, or PUD, which brings us to, as you can see, from the surrounding area to the north, is residential property, single-family home on one of those parcels. To the south is single-family plan residential district, open space and single-family homes in Summerfield Village, as well as some apartment properties along South State Road. To the east is South Old State Road itself. To the west is also SFPRD and HOA open space, which is owned by Summerfield Village. Following page is an aerial photograph of the two properties in question there. In terms of the comprehensive plan, in the 2018 comprehensive plan, parcels are located in sub-area 10 of the land use plan. Recommendation 10-1 states that to continue large lots of 1 acre or more fronting on Orange, Lewis Center, and South Hill State roads. While recommendation 10-3 reads infill remaining lands, we plan developments at 2 units per acre served by centralized sanitary sewer. Exhibit A is the site plan. We'll have a larger view of this to show up on the screen a little bit later, but there is a abbreviated review in the staff report. So density and unit count, again, the proposal is for 17 total homes, 16 of which would be newly constructed. We do know that the gross density of the project is 2.03 units per acre. Open space area is listed as 22%. Minimum floor area, minimum building square footage would be 1,800 square feet. For landscaping, the applicant did provide a landscaping plan, which is place spruce, autumn-blaze maple, and flowering dogwood trees planted throughout the district for street trees as well as screening. The landscaping plan also shows tree preservation zones along the southeast corner of the site, as well as along the property line. And a buffer of landscape and mounting is on the southwest ones. In terms of amenities, there's an entry feature with monument sign proposed near the entrance to South Old State Road, and a gazebo and playground are proposed for Reserve C at the northwest. In terms of the development standards, the plan proposes a lot width minimum of 70 feet, minimum lot area of 9,450 square feet, a side yard setback of 12.5 feet, front yard setback of 25 feet, rear setback of 30 feet, minimum pervious surface would be 35%. Usually you see those ratios flipped. A lot of times development codes will refer to a lot coverage maximum, maximum number of percentage of a lot that would be paved or buildings. This flips it. So this is a 35% minimum pervious surface. So essentially 65% would not be allowed to be exceeded with buildings. Maximum building height is 35 feet. The development text submitted by the applicant lists the permitted uses as single-family residential homes and permissible accessory uses. We do recommend expanding on that list of accessory and conditional uses to add clarity, just to especially clarify what permissible accessory uses would be, to add language that all other uses would be. Referring to the list of permitted, conditional, and prohibited uses for the neighborhood zone may also be an acceptable way of listing out those uses if the applicant uses that. A CAD, a common access drive area, is shown on lot 5. While this could provide future access to the parcel to the north, zoning staff is not aware of a concrete access plan for that parcel at this time. Regional planning staff also mentioned that this should be clarified in the application. Concur with that recommendation. One possible solution would be to separate the area from lot 5 and place a future access easement there, instead of identifying the area as a CAD as it is today. One minor note, on sheets 2 and 3, the lot dimensions for lot 5 were incorrect. So lot 5 should be 16,703 square feet instead of 7,000. The Orange Township Operations Department did recommend that no parking signs should be installed around the homes. In terms of review from other agencies, similar site layout was reviewed and approved by the Orange Township Fire Department. The street layout has changed. It would need to be submitted. In terms of the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission, they did vote to recommend conditional approval of the rezoning request at their May 28th meeting this year, subject to the following staff recommendation. That the applicant provide additional details on the development plan and in the development text regarding the CAD area on lot 5. And it did send out the minutes from that Regional Planning Commission to the zoning commission members. That's all I have at this time. I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions?
You know, I'm just curious, I want to call, not that it's germane, but I want to make sure that any concerns that the board had that we address, but what's their reason was denied?
Well,
The trustees, I'm sorry.
yeah, so I cannot speak for the trustees. The trustees denied that application.
Okay, they didn't.
So that denial should stand on its own.
Yeah,
That was technically a different application. So
Okay, understood.
we'll focus on what we.
Yes, thank you.
My applicant like to come forward, name and address, tell us about the application.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. John Wicks with Real Property Design and Development, 15 North Liberty Street, also the owner of the property. As Rob mentioned, you've seen this before. Came in under the old zoning code, the SFPRD, and we were using guidelines from the then current draft of the new zoning code, which has now been adopted with some changes. So in coming in under that old code, we had several divergences that seemed to be the real sticking point for all the reviewers. So we, terminated that application, came in under the new zoning code. So the new zoning code allows for 2 possible residential districts. One would be the standard neighborhood district, which allows 2.5 units to the acre, or PUD, which is a planned district, which allows 2 units to the acre. I rewatched the zoning hearing from last time. It seems like the 2 sticking points with the zoning commission here, there were a couple different members that were here at that meeting. Was the density. I was proposing 2.28 units per acre, 19 lots. And then the side yard setbacks, where I was asking for a divergence for 10 feet, and the code requires 12.5. So with this new submittal, I basically came in with 2 different options. I prepared 2 different options. I came in with I prepared a plan to show what the straight neighborhood zoning district would look like. Rob, would you mind pulling that sketch up for me? And while I can't, at least based on the concept that I would want to build, I couldn't get 2.5 units per acre, but I could get 19 lots, which again would put me at that same 2.28 units per acre. And under the straight zoning district, this would meet all of the standards of the straight zoning district. The 19 lots at 2.28 units per acre, 2.5 units max is the maximum allowed. 19 lots at 9,450 square feet minimum, 135-foot lot depth minimum, 70-foot wide lot width minimum, and setbacks front, rear, and side of 25, 30, and 12.5. So that's what this plan shows. It shows the 20% open space, and so this could be built under the straight district. I came in, I met with staff, we looked at the two different options, and I came away with the understanding that still the planned district was more appropriate for this piece for a number of reasons. In my opinion, Rob, could you put up sheet 2 of the development plan again? Yeah, that's that sheet there. So in my mind, and as has always been in my application, this is more of a cohesive neighborhood. It's got lots on both sides of the street. It respects the space off of South Old State Road. It keeps the pond where it is. Puts all the lots kind of towards the west side of the property. This has wider lots, which will allow for larger homes. There's one lot that's 71 feet wide. The rest of them are a minimum of 78.5 feet wide, which is going to allow for that wider housing product that we want to put in. Whereas again, the 19 lot subdivision was all 70 foot wide, so that you could get a maximum of 40-foot houses, I believe. This plan has the same 10 district standards in that it has the same minimum lot area, 9,450, so we're not asking for smaller lots. The front, side, and rear setbacks are the same as the end district. So 25 in the front, 12 and a half in the side, and 30 feet in the rear. The PUD here does propose a minimum lot depth of 120 feet, whereas the neighborhood requires 135. But it does have wider lots than the minimum 70, so that it can accommodate, again, the larger homes. And we even though we not lost 2 lots, we have 2 fewer lots than the end district would allow, we still felt this was the right plan. Now, in case there's some concern over the lot depths of 120 feet, I created a map that shows, I'm pulling up the map, it shows existing lots that have been developed over, the other one is the image. It shows the existing lots that have 120 feet or less depth. And every lot on this map that has a red dot on it is less than or equal to 120 feet. So each of those lots has less lot depth than what I'm proposing on my development. So it's a difficult case to make that it's it's out of character or undesirable. It's also important to mention that nearly every single subdivision in Orange Township in the past 30 years was a planned district. It used to be SFPRD, now it's PUD, still planned district. And the reason most developers go for that is because it allows flexibility in site design while adhering to standards such as density, open space, and lot area, which again, we do. With respect to the adopted comprehensive land use plan that was approved in 2018, this PUD complies with the recommendations on page 104, if you could pull that one up. This is straight out of the comprehensive land use plan. 10-2 suggests rehabilitation and reuse of existing structures. In this case, the existing house is going to be rehabilitated and modified and modernized rather to match the other homes in the subdivision. 10-3 says infill remaining lands with planned developments of 2 units per acre are served by centralized sewer. This is served by centralized sewer. And in fact, it might be difficult to see, but the top left, you see red rectangle. It states that in this sub area, there are 21 acres of undeveloped land. And if you look at the bottom right of the map, it shows you where those 21 acres are. One of them was the Horseshoe development, which is since 2018 has been developed. So that was 9.7. There's 11.3 acres remaining. And that includes my 8.4 acres, and the neighbors to the north is the one other piece of property in this sub area that doesn't have a home on it. So the comp plan suggests infill properties developed with 2 units the acre. We're asking for 2 units the acre on the infill property. So I guess in my opinion, this meets the comprehensive plan completely. Regional Planning Commission did recommend conditional approval. Their recommendation, the condition rather was, just additional, explanation of what I showed as a CAD. The intent of that was to provide an access to that additional undeveloped property. That was resolved, one of the trustees asked me to meet with that neighbor again, which I did. And we can do it, there's a number of ways to handle that. We can do a common access drive. We can do an access easement, or we can just eliminate it altogether. If it ends up being a zoning issue, we'll just take it off. But typically, the details of a plat, or I'm sorry, details of a CAD or an access easement will be worked out in the final engineering, final plat process, not necessarily zoning. But again, if it's a hang up, we were kind of doing it as an ask. I guess that's my presentation. I respectfully request for approval, as I believe this complies completely with zoning and with comp plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a quick question. What are the lot depths that you propose range from?
The smallest, there's two lots that have 120 feet, and the rest of them are larger than that. I think because of the depth of the width of the parcel, they're between 120 and 122.5 or something. So,
Very close to 122.
yeah. We tried to bisect the property with road.
Nothing less than 120.
I beg your pardon?
Nothing less than 120.
Nothing less than 120, even though on that map I showed you, there are a lot of lots there that are 110 feet, 115 feet. So we're exceeding those. As a matter of fact, on the project to the south, the Somerville Villas, the most immediately adjacent lot to my property is 115-foot lot.
What was the square footage of your house?
Well, the zoning requires 1,000 square feet, which I think is pretty antiquated. To be honest with you, I put 1,800 in there because I can't see anything less than 1,800, but I'd be real surprised if anything was less than, say, 2,200 square feet.
Your packet you provided, house samples, 1, 2, 3 are those the actual ones you were building, or
Those are, that is the housing product that the builder I'm working with is proposing to build this.
Robin, this is a question for you. Can you give us the pros and cons of the straight district versus they were straight district versus UD, so that for this particular application?
So one of the pros with UD is that, you have a guarantee that this is exactly the layout shown, that's what we built. The neighborhood, says these are the rules, these are the development standards that you have to work with, any layout that works with those standards.
So we would also prefer UD then, because we have clarity on what is the exact map.
Potentially.
Any other questions?
Commission, if I may, and if you have additional questions, by all means, but I do want to, since the applicant, I don't know, expanded on this, do want to remind that regional planning referenced the CAD and asked for additional or suggested additional information. So I do want to pause and see if the applicant can get you some additional information on what they're proposing.
But I tried to explain it in my summary, but the intent was to provide access to that remaining, I think it's 3 acres to the north, because it's the only parcel that doesn't have any frontage. It's the only undeveloped parcel shown on the comp plan that doesn't have frontage on the road. So one of the trustees just asked me to reach out to that neighbor, and I did, and we met, and we kind of talked about what those options could be, and that was what I settled on. It could be an easement, it could be a common access drive. In any event, it would be on lot 5, which is where we have it shown there. It's not super clear on my drawing, but that was the intent. If you go back to sheet 1, you'll see that lot 5 is the larger lot.
Was there any discussion about making the CAD area a reserve?
Well, it wouldn't be an open space reserve. It's used for driveways, so no, we didn't discuss that.
This might be for legal, or I don't know, can we make a condition for CAD also do that?
Yeah, so yeah, the commission has the ability to recommend approval with modifications, or denial. So if you recommend modifications, yes, a suggested modification would be to expand upon the CAD area, to remove it, to keep it, you have those options. I do think, it's not necessarily, I agree, a CAD is not necessarily a zoning issue, but the more we can work out those details in advance, the better the plan. I think, again, speaking as a land use planner, not necessarily a zoning official, to me, easement would make more sense than labeling it a CAD at this point, but that's not necessarily my decision.
Well, I think it was also regional planning left it without any definitions. They just said they wanted more information. I would have preferred they said, here, we'd like to have this, or like to have that. Because I'll be honest, I don't know what to do from here with that.
I agree, and I think in my mind, that's why a potential, future access easement could be beneficial, because then you're not locking it into, a CAD or a private street or a public street, the easement that provides access is a little more general, gives.
Yeah, so by definition, common access drive is an easement, it's not its own parcel. So there'll be a CAD easement on lot 5, or there'll be an access easement on lot 5, either way. I'm okay with it, I'm okay with committing to that. I mean, I put it in the plan as a CAD, but, I didn't put a lot of detail into it, so I'm happy to
You would
clarify.
you would making them a CAD and common access drive?
Yeah, it actually shows on sheet 2 as a common access drive, so we can commit to planning it as a common access drive.
So one additional thing, because a CAD is different than a private street. A CAD in Delaware County is a driveway that services a maximum of 5 lots. And so I think another concern is, I think, as Robin said, interconnectivity from a land use perspective makes sense. Reserving options is not, from a land use perspective, not a bad thing. But also being, I think just a bit more information, because again, CAD is not a private street. And also a CAD is not something that is publicly dedicated, it's just its own separate item.
What do you think should happen here?
Well, I guess one other, and I apologize if I'm putting Robin on the spot here, one additional question I have is, if a road were to be built in this space, be it a public street, private street, or CAD, how does that impact, or does it impact any of the setbacks for 5 or 4? That's just an aside, just want to please say that separately. For the zoning commission's perspective, if you were to make a recommendation with a condition, I would probably keep it general. I would probably say, some sort of reservation of, interconnectivity of some sort, be it a CAD, private street, or public drive.
So there is no way of controlling if the public uses that CAD, right?
A CAD is not a public right of way. The only way for public right of way to be, it generally is created through the planning process, and it doesn't sound like that, it is being pursued at this time.
So what you're concerned with is that this next piece of property, we know it's going to be residential at some point, because that's the comprehensive plan. So you're concerned, you want that connectivity, you want to ensure that connectivity would be there.
Robin, do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, and I think it's a little difficult at this point, just because we don't know, if the property to the north will develop, when it will develop, exactly what form that would take. And so that would be my hesitation, with locking in a CAD at this point.
I have a question to Robin. It might be a slightly out of the box, but it's kind of connected to the Summerfield community, which is right behind for this development, right? I don't know whether that's called a CAD, because I live in Glen. I use a Summerfield sometimes to cut the traffic and get into the Glen. So is that the CAD?
No, so that's a public right.
That's a
That is
public.
a public.
The road which connects from. So the road which connects from inside the summer field and makes me to get into the Glen Oak is private. Public.
That's a public street, so a CAD is usually what we think of as more like a shared driveway.
Yeah.
There's one on South Old State, just a little bit north of this project, and it's on the, east, the east side of it, those properties, state line or something. There's not a whole lot in Orange Township, there are some, it's a method of providing access to multiple properties without it being a public street.
Thank you.
From legal, how should this be worded? Because I suspect he'll probably agree to whatever we need.
Well, and this question is what we're gonna do.
Well.
If I can give you a
know
little
what to
more
recommend,
explanation.
because I don't know how it should be worded.
Well, let me share my thoughts on it. I mean, first of all, I appreciate you reaching out to the neighbor, and say, hey, this is X, Y, Z. I think it should be the widest capability for public access for whatever else is developed there. So what is that? Is that just an easement being accounted for? Or what is that that gives whoever, because the worst thing I want to happen if someone comes along or he sells this development, what have you, and somebody else decides, well, I'm not going to give you permission to do that, right? Even though someone else bought it. So I want it to be where it's an understood thing that whoever buys it, whether it's the current owner or someone else, this access will be there. So is that just an easement or what is that?
So in terms of restrictions, I'm hearing you want restrictions, you want certainty. And obviously, if this was a public right of way, even if it's undeveloped for now, it could be a stub road, it could be, again, just a public easement reserved for future improvements. That is a situation where, again, there is some certainty.
Yep.
And someone has rights to that area over lot 5. Right now, again, a CAD, when we're talking about a CAD, it is theoretical because there obviously and I apologize, I just want to get the name right. So the property's owned by Peter and Jasmine. Those property owners would have to grant, and be it these owners or future owners, would have to grant an easement. There would have to be there's a granting of property rights to one another. And while we can put a note for a CAD on this today, at the end of the day, it's still theoretical.
Right, I
How
got
about
it.
whatever that first one is?
Hold on a minute, I got all that. I'm kind of cut through this.
Yeah.
All this is going circular. Because, look, I don't understand the legal terminology. I'm not going to pretend to as to what's needed here to get through this. What is that legal terminology that we need so that this can be open? Make sure it's connected to the next thing. I understand the CAD can't do it. What needs to be modified?
From a zoning perspective, I don't know that zoning is the place to do it.
Right.
It would have to be, it would most likely be in the platting side of things. There'd have to be discussion of, because this road, Oak Knoll Court is a township street, or will be a township street. And that goes through the county, that goes through the.
All right, so wait a minute, how do we get through this? We hear your concerns, but you've already told us this is out of our hands.
So for purposes of making a recommendation and it would have to be a recommendation of approval with conditions, because a recommendation of denial is done.
Don't we have to specify the conditions?
Correct, so the condition could be, that instead of a CAD, again, the desired zoning condition would be that would be a public street of some sort. And while obviously the trustees would not be able to make that decision, they can't approve it, it at least signals to the board that the trustees have considered the CAD discussion, the private drive discussion, and the preference would be alphas.
The question before that, there's already an access easement there on the right side. Do you see an access easement on the open court? Let's go into
I
the other plant.
John, can you clarify that access easement?
Yeah. Yeah, so, yes, so thank you. First of all, we're not dedicating any public right of way. It's either gonna be an access easement or it's gonna be a common access drive easement to benefit only that property to the north. Common access drives are regulated through Regional Planning Commission. They have a rule that says you can have a maximum of 5 lots on a common access drive, and 2 of those have to be fronting on a public street. So in this instance, it would be lots 4 and 5 would be on the CAD, and you can have up to 3 additional lots on that property to the north, which could also use the access as the CAD. That's the maximum number the Delaware County Regional Plan will permit. The other access easement that I put there was to provide access to the neighbor's house, which is on the front parcel, to this street versus having to go out on the South Old State. So it's a separate access easement that I've already committed to. Whether he uses it or not, that'll be up to him completely, but we provided access because fewer access points on South Old State are better.
Let me just clarify one thing. I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So with respect to making that a public access store, you will not do that. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it benefits because there's only, I think, 3 acres up there, maybe 3, I think it's 3 acres. So a public street would be stubbed up to serve 3 acres, and it would also affect my setbacks for those lots that we have shown. So we're willing to grant an access easement for up to 3 homes.
Yeah, I just don't want the limitation of, or the possibility that something will change in the future between whoever's there. I want something that's permanent in that we don't have to worry about who owns what and all that stuff. Folks don't have to come in and fight and renegotiate, that sort of thing. So my preference would be that something is solidified.
Sure, and easements
In the future.
Easements can be restrictive. We could limit it to access only to that property. It can be limited or only up to 3 units. If at some point that piece develops, the easement can be, it'll be a recorded easement and it'll stipulate that.
I have a question for a visual from me, to visualize the CAD and access. When you said we have one north on South Oak State Road, is that the 3 houses on the east side of the street or that drive kind of?
The access easement, is it already approved by the owner or why it's mentioned there like that?
Because it was a condition, not a condition, it was an offer to the neighbor to
So
provide
it's a
access.
proposal.
It's proposed, nothing's existing except for the house.
So it says right that access easement.
Yeah, it's proposed on this zoning plan as an access easement. So it would provide an additional access to the front parcel.
Is if the owner, are they here?
Here.
Thank you.
And like I said, if there's no interest in using the access points, we're happy to just get rid of it. He does have legal frontage on South Old State, so again, it was kind of a give. It doesn't really impact me unless you try to make it a public street, which doesn't work for my plan.
What is the flexibility that we get with access easement? Of course, we know what CAD is based on this discussion, but what is an access easement and how does that give us some, is there additional benefit to that?
So one benefit of a planned district is that the zoning commission and trustees can be incredibly specific with respect to the development plan. And so that is a way that, again, restrict or prevent or that type of thing.
So an access easement provides more flexibility than CAD. Would you say that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking in terms of what ability does the township have in terms of the access easement. So you'd have to ask the,
Yeah.
I think the property owner of the role of the access easement.
I'm asking about the difference between technology, because CAD and access easement, which one has more flexibility for the future and which one has more ability to be?
Okay, understood. I apologize. So a CAD is it is truly a defined term that is by the county, regulated by the county, that can It's a driveway basically that can service a maximum of 5 lots. An access easement could be any number of things. It depends on the language of the easement itself. For example, I could grant someone an access easement just to walk on my property. It could be an access easement that has a paved road or that type of thing. It could be a gravel road or that type of thing. So I do think that that's also a question of, if there's an access easement, is that something that would be covered? Is that something that would pavers or gravel or just grass that can be driven over?
Can the zoning commission here, do we have the ability to restrict and propose what that needs to be?
So what I would say is the access easement, I think that's a fair question of what type of access is going to be provided. Again, if it's something that's paved, that could impact, I don't know, that it's been contemplated with respect to the open space or the permeable and permeable surface. I think asking for those specifics is something that the zoning commission can do.
Also, it depends on the uniqueness of the lot. There are some rules the Orange Township follow, and they have to come under those specifications for the approval.
So, question to the applicant, here you show a 60 feet CAD address. How does that impact the lot side setbacks?
Common access drives are easements, they're not right of way, so there's no setback requirements or restrictions typically. So 60 feet is the minimum width Delaware County permits for a common access drive. We could also, as Robert suggested, put just an easement on there, it could be narrower, but Delaware County wouldn't approve additional lots to be able to access, because 60 feet is the minimum. That's why I chose that.
No, would that impact the 12.5 feet? Let's say.
No.
if that is.
No, because it's not a right of way from which you have to be set back. But I still showed 12.5 feet from that limitation regardless. If we put a public street in there, we'd have to make it 25 feet, or I'd have to divergence.
Since regional planning didn't specify that they just wanted additional information because they saw it. Okay, what is this?
Yeah.
So with respect to them not insisting, hey, we need public access, we want this, one road, they didn't do that. And if they wanted that, they would have done that, they would have specified, here, this needs to be this, needs to have public access, needs to be this. He's already said, I'm not interested in public access because it changes my dimensions. So the most this could still ever be is what it is. And they, again, regional planning has not said, we want public access.
Well, I think regional planning would actually give us the details.
No, and that's what he did, no, yeah, just each one more information on what it is. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
CAD. They didn't say that we're not going
Yeah,
to,
but-
we weren't gonna approve this, if this was only a CAD or only an easement.
Well, I think they didn't want to make an assumption. Their position was, tell us what you want to do here. What is it going to be so that we can make?
No, they do make assumptions, they do make decisions.
All right, I'll leave mine.
Well, like I say, we have individual votes, you decide, I'm just trying to get through this.
I understand.
Not because this seems to be a minor point, that needs to be fixed, we need to get through this. Again, we'll have our own opinions, mine, I want, since regional planning didn't specify, we want public access. So we want something greater, or if they wanted that, they would have said, only public access, in my opinion. They wouldn't have said, oh, we want more information. Okay, it's a CAD. Now, what is this information could you have versus that, versus the easement? Stored public access.
Yeah, and I think as we've tried to lay out the options for you as the commission, as you are the recommending body, one of your potential modifications or recommendations could be, specifying in the development plan that this would be a CAD that follows the appropriate standards of Delaware County. And I think that would be sufficient.
And I don't think that's a problem, because Delaware didn't specify public access.
They just wanted clarification.
Right, they want clarification of what it was rather than being specified. So if they wanted that, they would have.
Another question for Robin then. So, let's say the access easement and the CAD shown on this screen, if they are made impervious surfaces, would the 35% or 100% still stay, or
So
on the
the-
total?
Yeah, so the 35, the impervious surface is per lot, it's not for the
Yeah.
overall development. So the access easement on the east side of the property would be just fine. You know, I think for, lot 5, you know, that they may wanna keep those calculations in mind. I wouldn't think that it would be an issue, but something.
I'm not concerned about the impervious versus pervious.
Exactly, and you would maintain the county, Delaware, and West Township standards for that.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
The only issue was not making it public access, because that changes.
It's not intended to be public access.
Right, exactly, no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I request commission, because the CAD is not the only deciding factor for the approval for this case. So, can we hear from the general public?
I think Pam has a
Well,
question.
yeah, I have a question.
Before we do it, if we follow the recommended standards, does that mean that, in the future, that we still have those recommended standards in place, that we have access to the property to the north, or does it dissolve when you decide to sell, or?
You mean if I go to the end district? No, I wouldn't be able to extend it all the way up because it would just be our 20% open space.
Well, yeah, I think a CAD or an easement is something that's recorded with the property, so that does remain for conserving.
Thank you.
All right,
Can you hear from
yeah, folks, I'd like to hear from the public. Name and address, please, limit your comments to 3 minutes, and ask please not to repeat. You already heard the comments, it's already recorded.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes, name and address.
Good evening, my name is Brian Hunt. My address is 3300 Riverside Drive, 125, Upper Arlington, Ohio, 43221. And I'm here tonight to represent Nathan Blymeister, whose property directly abuts the boundary of this parcel. This commission should recommend denial of this application for many reasons. It should recommend denial because the proposal contradicts the comprehensive plan. It misuses the PUD district. It introduces unresolved traffic hazards on one of the busiest corridors in the township. And most importantly, it should recommend denial because the residents of this community have told me that this is not the development that they want. This commission will recall that this is not the first attempt to rezone this property. Recently, the commission recommended denial of the prior application, and the township trustees agreed, ultimately denying the request. The current proposal, repackaged under a new design, does not cure the fundamental defects that led to that result. First, the application does violate the comprehensive plan. Goal 10-1 for sub-area 10 states that development should continue large lots of 1 acre or more running on Orange, Lewis Center, and Southwest State roads. There is no ambiguity on this plan. This plan proposes 17 lots on 8.38 acres. Lots as small as 7,478 square feet, with frontages as narrow as 70 feet. This is a direct deviation from Goal 10-1. The applicant tries to avoid this issue by focusing on goals 10-2 and 10-3, which ignores the very goal that specifically governs this corridor. These goals should be read together, not selected. The second issue is that the PUD is being misused. Article 10 of the zoning resolution states that the PUD district is specifically for unique projects that promote the goals of the comprehensive plan, but that cannot be accomplished under a base zoning district. This application satisfies neither problem. It contradicts the plan and is a conventional subdivision that's readily achievable under the FR1 district. The applicant is using the PUD not for innovation, but to circumvent the standards that would otherwise apply. Third, there are traffic and safety concerns that are unresolved. The applicant proposes funneling all traffic from 17 homes to a single cul-de-sac access point onto the south of the state road. That means that every school bus, every ambulance, and every family will pass through one narrow point onto that busy 55-mile-per-hour. As many have already expressed, will probably continue to tonight, that is a disaster waiting to happen. There's another speaker that will point out specific issues with traffic. Number 4, the density exceeds the PUD standards. 17 lots across roughly 8.38 acres yields approximately 2.03 units per acre. The PUD clearly states that its standard is no greater than 2. This proposal is above that standard. Number 5, there's undoubtedly going to be harm to adjoining properties. My client lives next door, and the impacts of this development will create are practically certain. These include that there's a risk of trespass from 17 new households on her property and her community's private path, loss of privacy and enjoyment caused by inadequate buffering, screening, and fencing along the shared boundaries. And 6, the community has spoken. The 2018 comprehensive plan asked residents what they wanted in the township, and their answers were clear that they wanted sensitive and appropriate development. Specific comments included that, quote, housing density is absolutely having a negative impact on feelings about the area, and that Orange Township has lost its country feel and image, and it has turned into another community that just lets builders destroy green space to build whatever makes them money. Additionally, during the applicant's last attempt to rezone this property, the trustees stated that many local residents are opposed to the intent to put such dense developments in the township. Therefore, it is evident that the community is not supportive of projects like this in these sensitive locations. To wrap up, the record before you is clear. This application contradicts the comprehensive plan, misuses the PUD, leaves critical safety questions unanswered, harms adjoining property owners, defies the express wishes of your residents. For those reasons, and on behalf of my client, I respectfully request the commission recommend denial of the application. Thank you.
If I may ask, what does your client have a recommendation on what should be built?
I don't want to speak on behalf of my client, but I do think that there's a current option available under the zoning, it's FR1, and I don't know what that analysis looks like, but I also think it's really our place to suggest what the application. Thank you. Additional questions? No questions. Thank you.
Ryan Such, 2230 Jackson Court. I am a registered architect, president of the HOA, David Abigail, and 18 years in the Industrial Planning Commission. I want to first start with the definition. Under Ohio, spot zoning is considered zoning that is not justified when it constitutes violation of the local comprehensive plan, fails to provide a relative public benefit that outweighs the demonstrated hardship to the individual landowner. Let's start to be clear here. There's no hardship. I want to say it again, and I've said this many times. Rezoning is not the right of an ownership. Just because I own a property, it's not giving me the right to rezone. That's why you're here. You're here to look over the public benefit. This produces no public gain whatsoever. In fact, I find the last time I pulled up this plan, this CAD section wasn't even there. It was just the extended lot number 5. Now that I look at these two access points and why this would not be a public road, we would do a private drive. It's a loop back to this property. We fought this battle now 4 times. This will be the 4th time to get away from what was going to be 23 homes. The applicant has already said themselves about the private drive. How many individual lot parcels can they put? 5. You add that to the 17 here, we're now up to 22. We're right back where we started. This is spot zoning. This is the poster child for spot zoning, which is illegal, should not be done in this particular property. All these properties, again, would come back to, again, a single point on the worst section of South State. And I want to remind you, we keep pointing at, well, South State's going to be improved. It's just getting wider. Put yourself in the position of someone coming out of this property that's going to go north at 8:30 in the morning. Now I've got to cross 2 lanes of traffic that's heading southbound. One's to be totally blinded me because I won't be able to see them. I've got to cross in a central turn lane and the 2 lanes that are now coming north. That's not going to be safe whatsoever. The other point I want to make, and I stress this from, again, 18 years on Western Planning Commission, is precedent. If you approve this, changing this FR1 with a single point access on the whole state, any one of these, or any combination of the remainder of these homes could come together and say, hey, it'll have less homes in this, we want to do the same thing. That is malpractice, and it's very clear. That is the single, probably most stressed part of traffic in the entire part of Lewis Center, and we're gonna bring a whole bunch of single access up. Can you pull up, please, the map that you had previously when he was asking about the 120-foot depth properties? There's one thing you're gonna find that's gonna be common for every one of those red dots that you see there. There isn't a single one of those that doesn't have doubled access out to another street other than the one. This has never been about whether the depth is 120 feet or not. This is about the number of homes that we're trying to pack for greed and profit's sake to bring out to a single access point. And we're the ones that will have to live with that decision. This is spot zoning, which is illegal in the state of Ohio, and you've got to enforce the fact that this shouldn't be happening in this location. Let alone, you're gonna chop off one FR1 site from the remainder. For what purpose? If I'm that homeowner, what can I do other than sell to a developer now who's gonna increase more density and bring them out at a single point on this? Also, it states, the applicant also states in the application that it touts consistency with the comprehensive plan and the PUD is consistent with the Orange Township's land use plan sub-area 10, as it's surrounded by SFPRD neighborhood. This is not true. If you look at how every one of the other neighborhoods have gone around, they were planned for a reserve between the FR1 properties and themselves. Every single one as it comes around. This property would be directly back to back with another PUD from that one. Lots 1 through 5, 14 through 17, each adjoin in a single FR1 neighbor. That's not what these neighbors for FR1 signed up for. And so you should uphold the current FR1 as it holds in this area and not accept this application. Thank you.
Can I ask a question to the previous question? I'm just curious as to your argument is that it doesn't serve the public interest.
Doesn't.
And so my question is, what do you see the public interest with respect to it as it is in town?
If you were planning this area out as a blank sheet of paper, and we're gonna put a PUD here, you would put multiple points of access out. The dice didn't fall that way, because all this stuff is laid out. This property should remain an FR1 site. And it largely I said it the first time I was here 4 meetings ago, that if this property had another access out to another neighborhood, I probably wouldn't be here. Do I think this is good zoning when I've got an FR1 site that I'm bisecting the rest of them? No, I don't. But those things would happen in the course of zoning, I understand. Uniquely, these properties are where they sit because they do not have access to other neighborhoods. Should remain FR1. These folks that are here who own these properties want them to be what they are. They do not want to be bisected and taken apart by putting neighborhoods. It's just bad zoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
American 2097 Chicory Code. Before I address the specifics of this proposal, I want to preempt an objection that traffic is not a zoning issue, and this has come up in previous meetings. I want to preempt that. What we're discussing is not a marginal increase in the number of vehicles that are going to use South Coast State. It is creating a new pattern. A pattern that introduces left turns and right turns in close proximity to a major intersection, without traffic signals, without dedicated turn lanes, and a location where a resulting traffic jam could prevent a fire station 500 feet away from this from deploying its fire engines. This is not going to be solved if you add 2 more lanes, because a dedicated left lane is even recommended by the engineer in his application. The letter from the Delaware County engineer states that Southwell State Road is classified as a minor arterial, and as such, a minimum of 120 feet of right-of-way is required. This includes 60 feet from the dedication, from the center line of the roadway. Because of this requirement, the developer went and got a traffic study done. The first foremost assumption of this traffic study is from the data that you're seeing on page 68, which has a traffic record count. Sorry, the letter is 68. The growth data is on 59, page 59. You'll see a snapshot of a traffic record station data that, if you look carefully, says US 23. It's not Southwell State Road, it's US 23. The traffic study has conveniently marked it as Southwell State Road in their interpretation. Why is that important? Because I went and looked at the same source as what is the traffic information look like. May I approach? I apologize for the small font, but on the first side, the front-facing side, you can see the location from which the data is acquired. On the reverse side, you can see the actual growth data over the 4-year period. If you calculate from the numbers as done by the same company, you get a 7% growth. This is a complete misrepresentation of what the traffic would be if you were to assume that it's only 1% increase. Why would the county engineers expand the road if there's only 1% growth? Think about that. The second thing that he has done is taken a data from the same Southwell State Road on June 4th and June 5th. Anything striking about that? That is summer holidays. There are 2 schools that use this corridor. There's no school buses in that traffic data. There's no people taking their kids to school. There are no teachers and any other people who are driving to this schools from this intersection. So this traffic count grossly underestimates what would be the traffic impact. The last one that you want to notice is that there is a theoretical estimate of how many left turns would be made by this traffic study. They say it's 10. What is so convenient about that number? Because if it had been 11, he would require a left lane and a right lane. Why is that 10? 17 houses will have 2 cars. There are 34 vehicles in that intersection. This is the only entrance, only exit. Even if 60% of that, let's say 15%, 50% of those cars use the left lane. That is 17 vehicles that will require you to have a dedicated right-of-way, left lane and right lane. This is not the only misrepresentation that's had. Mr. Peters, you earlier asked, why did the trustees reject this proposal? I have a small recording.
If you don't have that, may I ask you to just say it so that we couldn't really hear?
Okay, apologize. Ms. Lisa now, trustee, absent. I don't like when people come with an old house that's a larger unit and then all of the rest of the houses are crammed into it to make for that 2 unit. That was old code, but still the math is the same. 2 units per acre, if you want to arrive at that. What is his response? You can go back and watch the video. You would do it. He told trustee, and she stopped engaging with him after that point. Some of you are friends with that. That's what he sees this committee to be. An obstacle to overcome. Not a party that he wants to engage with. This is not the first time. It's not an isolated outburst. In a previous meeting, when asked explicitly, will he comply with the recommendation of this zoning board and the limitation imposed by the zoning board? He said, I will go with my plan. You can go back and look at the record. That's verbatim the code. This committee has previously rejected proposals for safety. It is not just this box of papers. If it is just numbers and codes that you want to get considered, what is the difference between you and a calculator? If you're deferential to the Delaware Community Zoning Plan, who heard from none of these people here, nobody here was there to complain about the traffic, how it's going to impact their life. They only saw this proposal and deferred to you to consider. And that's why you have this option to deny this proposal. I'm not saying that we cannot have development. Lisa Knapp said that. She told us that we need to embrace change. I accept that. We can go for change. Why rush? There's going to be several construction projects planned for 2028 to 2030. We don't have that information, how that will impact our houses, how that will impact traffic. Is this committee going to accept liability if there is a traffic incident or safety incident on South State Road because of illegal zoning activity? Ask yourself, what if it takes 2 more minutes for the fire engine to reach your house when your child or grandchild requires the fire engine? Because of zoning, because of careless, unplanned traffic intersections. If you do want to proceed, please require that a careful traffic study is redone for this proposal. Apart from the community member, I want to also propose or require some changes as a neighbor. He has proposed that on the south border, there'll be 18 Norwegian spruce trees planted over 150 feet of length. That is less than 1 tree per 10 feet. What kind of blockage is that? What kind of a loose border is that? What if a kid, a pet in that neighborhood thinks that, oh, that path is a common path? Somerville Village pays for it. What if they come to our community and break our rules? We have no mechanism for enforcing those rules. You can deny him today for several number of reasons. It could be all of them. What will happen? He will come back in 2 months. He has done it 3 times already. He will come back in 2 months with a revised plan. You approve it today. The trustees get the message that you haven't heard anything from them at the previous meeting. They have now seen committee approve a plan which they have recommended against. And the community members have no recourse. He will come down and bulldoze everything, and we are holding the bag. Well, there's no recourse for any of the community members to appeal. So please consider this as a community member. Represent us, not a developer. Thank you.
Anyone else with anything different to say?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Baxendale. I'm the former president of Somerville Village Homeowners Association. More pertinently, I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of Ohio, focusing on site civil development and design. Previously spoke at one of these meetings to you guys, and they've covered almost everything. The reason I'm speaking is we left out one big thing. We talked about South State widening. We talked about the traffic impact in this neighborhood. We haven't talked about the eternal eyesore that is Porsche that may at some point eventually get built. Let's say it gets finally built. We'll be building Southwood States widening. We'll be putting a new tunnel in at Orange. We'll be widening Orange. And we'll be having the Porsche lot also all coming in at the same time. So these are a number of developments that are all hitting at the same time. And you're not putting just one,
You need to stay pertinent to this particular application.
but that's my point. Your traffic side of this, all the talk that they've had here is correct. You have not one, but two, within 1,000 feet of one of your largest intersections that are gonna now have access, both trying to do that. I have completed personally over 100 traffic studies, working with municipalities, ODOT, many people across the state of Ohio. And all of those traffic studies account for, number one, most important, safety. When you have two different points of egress, they're gonna be coming online similarly at similar times here. Plus the percentage of traffic, or we're setting ourselves up for a significant safety problem. And that's why I'm requesting more than any other reason here to deny this, is it's a safety hazard. No more, no less. Thank you.
Peter DeGuy, 6976 South Old State. I'm the neighbor to the north. I share the longest border and I'm probably affected most by this development. You guys have heard me speak many times before. I'm going to skip most of those points and focus on a couple new things. And those points all still stand, by the way. You can watch the other videos and get those if you need them. One thing that's interesting about this proposal is that it's coming under the new zoning code, and that changes how we look at things sometimes. And I know we're all going through this together, and we're not yet, either as a public or as probably as board, experienced yet with interpreting that and figuring out where things lie and all that. I want to take that some into consideration, but I also want to then look at what some of those new zoning code regulations introduced now that weren't introduced in the prior applications from the developer. You heard earlier that section 10.01.a states that a PUD zoning is specifically established to, quote, provide flexibility for unique projects that promote the goals of the comprehensive use plan, but that cannot be accomplished under base zoning district. The applicant's own documents undercut this standard. They explicitly acknowledge that the straight neighborhood zoning is available at 2.4 acres, or 2.5 units per acre. A single-family subdivision on a cul-de-sac is certainly not a unique project in Lewis Center. I think we could all agree on that, so it does not meet that requirement. And it can, a single-family subdivision on a cul-de-sac can also be achieved through the neighborhood zoning code. So we're already in violation of the PUD twice. Would also like to point out that this is in the, and I will point this out as one of my points earlier, but this is in the middle of an existing, long-established FR1 neighborhood. Many of my neighbors are here. We don't want this in the middle of our neighborhood. This is not the end piece of our neighborhood. This is in the middle of it. So it is breaking apart our neighborhood and our zoning. None of us bought our properties for this reason. Wanted to live next to a subdivision or be in one. That's why we bought these properties. That's the reason FR1s exist. You are changing the nature of FR1s throughout Orange Township if this goes through. You are setting a precedent. And there will be more development like this if you go through with this. This will just be the first of them. It will not stop. And I don't think anybody in this room wants that. I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of the precedent that you're setting, not only with FR1 properties in Orange Township, but also with the new zoning code. Getting back to the new zoning code. Article 21, section 21.06 of the Orange Township zoning code, the new one, also states that applications must include, quote, an existing condition site plan, including, quote, existing utilities and easements, existing building footprints, existing fencing, existing trees, and areas of existing vegetative landscaping, none of which are in the application. So it's in violation of that as well. Orange Township zoning code section 10.01.e.1 for the PUD specifically says, and I will quote this exact wording, the maximum number of residential units per gross acre of area within the area to be developed shall be no greater than 2.0. Okay, that's specific. I can grab any Wauwatosa middle schooler in here and they will tell you that 2.038 is greater than 2.0. There's no ambiguity in that language. You have to deny it just on that one thing alone. You can certainly come back and figure out a way to, adjust the numbers. So that's probably what we'll end up doing, and we'll get to that when we get to that. I also want to point out the drainage issue. So this is a good map for that. So the current proposal is to drain to the north towards my property. The existing storm culvert there underneath Old State, and it is showing on the developer's application right here as being underneath the new state that's coming into existence. So the current drainage proposal can't possibly exist in the future, because that's gonna be underneath a new road. So there is no way that this drainage proposal can actually be implemented, because it doesn't exist in the future, even according to his own documents. So if you look at those black arrows going to the north, that's probably that's drainage. If you look at the expansion of South Old State on the same drawing, it's over the top of that. That culvert will not exist. You know, all that's gonna get moved back, and I've made this point before, that when you move that back, you are very dangerously close to my septic field. At which point, if it floods, and it will flood, if we have another entire subdivision stormwater to my front yard, my house will become uninhabitable under Delaware County Health Code, because it will ruin back up into my house. Okay, so I don't want that to happen. I keep pointing this out, and I'm not gonna stop pointing it out until it gets addressed, and nowhere in these documents is it addressed, because this drainage plan is fiction. It can't possibly exist. It will not exist, even according to the documents that the developers even provided. Orange Township zoning code section 15.15 is explicit. Stormwater retention and detention facilities cannot exceed 50% of total dedicated open space calculations. This is plainly written in the zoning code. If you look at it, he's got a stormwater retention pond, and he's double counting it there. If you take away and cap it at the 50% it's supposed to be, it's going to be underneath the 20% open space requirement, and therefore in violation of it again. I urge you to do the math on this and look at it yourself. Furthermore, Orange Township's new zoning code sets a demanding standard that a PUD review criterion of G.2 requires that the board find that the proposal would meet or exceed the goals, objectives, and/or recommendations of the comprehensive plan. That's not policy preference, that's actually a mandatory finding. You have to affirmatively look at all of these things in the comprehensive use plan, and they have to meet or exceed them now under the new zoning code. He will not meet or exceed these. He barely meets any of them, and falls short on several, which I will detail a couple real quick. Subarea 10-2 states that new structures should maintain the same character. This is in the comprehensive use plan. 10-2, new structures should maintain the same character as existing buildings, including setbacks and massing. The surrounding context along this stretch of South Old State consists of 1 acre or larger lots with homes set well back from the road. The proposed homes has a massing of 17 houses, lot coverage and proximity structures to one another that bear no resemblance to the character of the existing long-established neighborhood along this corridor. The developer again acknowledges this tension with his architectural guidelines and tries to paper over it. I urge you to look at it again. Comprehensive use plan strategy T-2.3 explicitly requires reducing dead ends and connecting neighborhoods together. Reduce dead ends and increase connections between neighborhoods by considering new developments to access existing developments. Oak Knoll is a single cul-de-sac street with 1 access point on the South Old State and no connections whatsoever to its surroundings. The site is completely bordered by existing residences on 3 sides, yet not 1 single vehicular or pedestrian through connection is proposed on any of it. Strategy NR-1.4 in the comprehensive plan states that, quote, that it should set aside a minimum of 20% of continuous open space. He has reserved A, B, and C all in here, none of which is continuous. There are 3 separate pieces. It's not continuous. That is a requirement now that he has to meet or exceed under the comprehensive use plan, under the new zoning code by Orange Township. I think you've already heard about the other precedent about how many acres are left to be developed and whatnot. I'm not going to get into that more. I just want to point out though that this not only violates the PUD requirements, both for unique purpose as well as units per acre and the drainage and the open space percentage, but then it also violates several parts of the comprehensive use plan, which now are required to meet. You need to meet or exceed them under the new zoning code. And I'll end with that. Thank you very much, and please deny this.
evening. My name is Tom Washer. I live on the other side where Peter lives. I'm on the lower side of that property. My property abuts the south end of the property being considered. I'm new from Lewis Center, having arrived in November from Fort Myers, Florida. But this area is not unique to me. My wife and I started our careers in Granville, Ohio. And we had our first house, 3 acres, our second house, 25-acre farm. That was beautiful. Serenity, peace, in the evening, no traffic to worry about. And so when we were getting ready to move up here to be closer to our daughter and son-in-law, 5 minutes away from where I live right now, we were looking for a property that was similar to what we had experienced in our whole life. We wanted something that was large, was quiet, and that we could enjoy as we grow older. If we had known that when we closed on this property in late August, my wife and I had known that this property was going to be right next to the situation that's going on right now, we would not have bought it. That's how much we were interested in preserving the serenity that we had enjoyed before. When we moved up to Midland, Michigan, we had 1 to 2 acre lots, a lot of trees. So we always had very peaceful neighborhoods. I did have to spend a while in Fort Myers. My wife's mother was down there, and I took care of her for about 20 years. She passed 3 years ago. And from that point on, we were making plans to move back up to where our children are, and one in Granville and the other one in Lewis Center. While I have no technical detail to rebut the order, I will say that my experience in the farm residential section has been very great. I would love to keep it that way if all possible. And I just say, why not keep the existing farm residential zoning to provide the continuity that currently exists for the non-existing contiguous properties? Why not accept the wishes of our neighborhood? I ask you to not approve this rezoning request. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm Christina DeFranco. I live on 7377 Trillium Drive, and that's in Somerville Village. I think people touch on these points pretty well. I do think at the very least we should have a new traffic study. I mean, 1% growth predicted. I don't think we think they'll agree that doesn't exist. But I also want to read something from the application from the developer. Zoning options for this property include the straight neighborhood zoning district of 2.5 units per acre and the planned unit development newly adopted zoning code of 2 units per acre. While the neighborhood district could build more homes, the PUD option was selected in order to maintain the rural feel along the Old State Road by concentrating new homes in the existing housing on the property. The PUD doesn't make the rural feel, it's the number of houses. The PUD just allows them to have no variances, and that's why the single unit was rejected the first time. There is nothing unique about this development. It's a residential development. And in exchange, when you give away these variances based on the comprehensive plan, you should be getting something as the community in return. And this is a cul-de-sac on Old State Road. The comprehensive plan discusses connectivity with the community. Again, this is a cul-de-sac on Old State Road. Most of the green space, developed counts, is non-contiguous, passive green space, with the exception of the playground. And in exchange for that, the community has to shoulder the extra traffic, the setbacks. I mean, I don't know if this new zone puts, the weird one with the single family houses. I don't know if the variances are still there, they seem still very close to the cul-de-sac, so I don't know if that's still an issue, but I still think that if you're going to give up the variances, then you should get something in return. And many of the houses pointing out these short setbacks are 20 years old. The new plan is from 2018. I just don't feel like we can have our cake and eat it too. We can't look at the old stuff and then take with the new stuff. The zoning code has made things a lot easier for these developers. And in exchange, the residents would like some stays, maybe a little more control. And I just feel like the developer has a very unique opportunity with this borough plan. I mean, because units are a dime a dozen, it's not unique. And it's, what people want is land, more space between their houses. So I think that no matter what happens, I think he can make a very nice bunch of houses, even if it's not 17 in a unit, PUD, but yeah, so thank you, and please.
Same doctor, 25% Cold Spring Drive. So I don't know all the technicalities of this personal this hearing. I'm here because I know some of my neighbors who live in this area. And I will tell you my experience, turning on the whole state even now is almost impossible. I live right off Old State, probably just across from this proposed development. And the only way we can get out now, turn onto Old State, is we go behind the subdivision, we go on to Abbey Knoll, we go on to the circle around Orange Road, and then come up. If you're gonna do this development, the poor people that will buy there, I don't know how they're gonna make it work. It's the way it is. Thank you. Anyone else with any new concerns? All right, public comments.
I have a couple of questions based on some of the testimony. Comments by the public. Is the development standard about counting the free space to not include more than 50% of the storm drain area? Are we still sticking to that standard?
Yes, I think the question would be, so if you look at Reserve A, which is just under 60,000 square feet, Reserve B is 10,000 roughly, and C is another 10,000. So in total, you're looking at about 80,000 square feet open space. The question is it pond, 40,000, is it more than 50% of that? The applicant can clarify on that, if it brings some clarity. It looks close, but my guess is that it's not. John, you can provide the specifics.
Yeah, we have done our stormwater calculations on that, and it's just under 25,000 square feet is the surface area, or actually the retention component.
So half of that is 16. Yeah, cannot count more than that for.
So the maximum would be roughly 40,000 square feet or 1 acre, because you're looking at throughout development, there's again 80,000 total square feet. So back to that in that of open space.
Would that satisfy the need for the percentage of open space you need?
Yes, as long as the footprint of the pond is less than 40,000 square feet.
Okay.
It's not less, right?
It has been
According to
satisfied.
them. I mean,
It's much less than 50.
how much is it? Can you repeat it one more time?
I think it was 24,000 square feet, but 24,000 square feet, between 24 and 25,000 square feet of 80,000 square feet of open space.
Another question was, a requirement was mentioned about 20% of open space has to be contiguous. Is that still satisfied?
So I believe that's a recommendation from the comprehensive land use plan. It's not necessarily a code requirement. It's a recommendation from the comprehensive.
But if you wanted that recommendation, then you would not, that would not be satisfied. I mean,
Assuming that is accurate, yes.
and talking with the storm drain there, is it true that the future expansion of Southern State would create a barrier for storm draining off.
That unfortunately I do not have an answer to. Obviously, stormwater and traffic will both be reviewed by the Delaware County Engineers Office.
I can answer that. If you want me to. Sure. So we have to design for both existing and future conditions. I have the plans from the county engineer to show where their future storm drains are gonna be. So in the existing condition, we would drain into the roadside ditch that's currently there, which is what the plan shows. In the future, when the county brings in their improvements, they will pick up my storm pipes and take it into their system. So both conditions are being planned for. And everything I show as far as an improvement here is in the public right of way, so unless Mr. DeGaia's septic system's in the right of way, then we shouldn't have an impact on his leach.
Any further questions or comments from the board? All right, I'll answer the final portion here.
Can I answer some of the questions that I
Oh,
heard?
sure, of course, certainly. I said, I didn't ask you, sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I'd just like to respond to a couple of things. First of all the people that talked, only 2 of them don't live in a neighborhood just like this one. So, you know, you hear from people who don't want this new development that they themselves live in community neighborhoods surrounding this project. So, Mr. Hunt contended that, this site doesn't comply with 10.1 of the comp plan, which states continue large lots of 1 or more, 1 acre or more fronting one road. I actually have 0 lots fronting Will State Road here. We've got a 1.3 acre park, so it does comply in my opinion. There's 0 houses, and that would take up that space. There was somebody alluded to spot zoning. I mean, everything around this is a PUD. Every single development surrounding it showed up on, as I showed on my one map, is a planned district. People do that because they like to have the flexibility to provide different configurations and provide open space that's more usable. Every single one of them has open spaces that are like pocket parks, and they're not all interconnected. The only time I see one it's a long linear open space is under power lines, anywhere in Orange Township. So while that is it would be nice to be able to do that, very few of these subdivisions, unless they're under power line easements, actually achieve that. He talked about adding 22 additional lots to the CAD. Just again, I don't own that land. I don't control that land. That land would have to come through before you can get rezoned to put additional lots on it. So if we do plat a CAD there, an access easement or whatever we end up doing, it would be to benefit that property and however you approve the zoning. It wouldn't, or if they just came in under the current zoning, they would just have 1 home back there. There's no 22 lots being generated by this.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So when you said about the easement access,
Yeah.
you were mentioning about just the one which has to come from Mr. Peter, right?
No, there's nothing, I'm not requesting anything from Mr.
No,
Guy. It's
oh, you're
providing an
saying-
access to his property if that property were to develop. There's no agreement between the parties. It's something that either shows up on my plat or it doesn't. And it provides an access that doesn't currently exist. If it became a problem, Mr. DeGuy didn't want it, we'd take it out. Mr. Such talked about, when you look at my map, can you pull up my map with the red dots again? I'm sorry. There. He said that every other development with red dots has 2 exits. That's not true. If you look at the very bottom, the woods at Cross Creek has 23 lots on a single access. Most of those lots are less than 120 feet deep. So while it is nice to have double access, absolutely, I would prefer it. when they developed all these developments around us, they didn't provide me access. I can't go in and acquire property just to get a second access. It was approved through the township, it was approved through the county. So this is what we're left with. The traffic study has been called into question. First of all, I'll just back on the record and say traffic's not a zoning issue. While I do recognize that traffic is an issue, there are plans in place. That's one of the things that I researched before I even bought the property. Like, I know that it's an issue, and I know that the widening isn't going to make it a level A service, but it's going to be a lot better than it is right now. And we follow the Delaware County standards. So if somebody was questioning the data or questioning the left turn movements, we didn't conveniently select the numbers. We ran by the Delaware County engineer, we ran our assumptions by them. They confirmed that that was correct. Let's see, there was some discussion about a previous recording. I'm trying to remember what that was. I'll skip that. My previous application was under a different zoning code with a different number of lots. It was turned down because of divergences. Nobody got comfortable with divergences, no problem. We're under the new zoning code. We're not asking for any divergences. This meets the PUD zoning code. Timing of other projects, including the Porsche project, has no relevance on this one. With respect to this being in the middle of an FR1 neighborhood, the lots to the south of me, well, the lots to the south of Mr. Washer are platted lots. It's a platted subdivision, so that's a neighborhood. Actually, Mr. Washer's is part of that. I have copies with me. But my property and Mr. DeGuy's property are unplatted properties, unplatted lots. So it's not a contiguous neighborhood there. There is a platted neighborhood to the south, and it is called Tall Pines Acres. I got a copy of the plat here, if you're interested. Yeah, we talked about the drainage under the existing road, or future road. Again, we designed for both eventualities. One current condition, the other would be tying into or being intercepted by the county's plans. We're talking to them about, our engineers are talking and working together. Yeah, again, somebody said the house that's there doesn't match the houses along Old State. We're not proposing a house at all, so that's irrelevant. Traffic study needs updated. I don't dispute that. I didn't realize that they were pulling data from the summer months. I think that was an oversight. I have talked to them, and they said that that was the most recent data they had, but they should have probably pulled older data. If the traffic study were to indicate that a turn lane is required, the engineering department won't approve my plan. They'll require it. Somebody said that this still has variances. There's no variances. Yeah. I recognize that there's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of people that just don't want things to change. This is a responsible development. The acreage of each lot meets the new standards that were set in place by you guys and by the township trustees. As a matter of fact, they exceed what you approved. Trustees recommended, or took your advice and then added to the size of the lot. So 9450 is the minimum. And as I just indicated, we comply with the comp plan. So if your guide is the comp plan and the zoning, this is, I think, it should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, did you look at that 2.0 shall not exceed 2.0 versus 2.0? Is that actually what it says?
Yes. I didn't see where it said 2.0. Everything I saw just said 2 acres. And
I think it is 2. We've had these discussions before where something either it meets the standard or it does not. 2.03 is bigger than 2. I think the zoning commission should certainly take that into consideration, whether, yes, it is over. Is it significantly over? That's the determination that you all make.
I don't know of any metric where 2.03 isn't 2. Rounded to 2.
I think
Pardon me?
Yeah, you know, I think if we looked at this at like, at a setback level, where, if we looked at it, if the setback is 20 feet and it's, the structure goes 20 feet, 6 inches into the setback, it is over the setback. So it is not always black and white in ways that we would like, but it is, in terms of that, 2.03 is.
There is a history of more than 2 units to the acre on recent PUDs. It's not a hard and fast rule. This board has approved several over the last couple of years.
Any other further questions, comments from the board?
Planned unit development as per the new guideline is designed for something unique, right?
It does have that language in there, yes.
Yeah. As for the staff, is there uniqueness to this that was considered?
Sorry.
I think I got your question. Actually, there is something even I wanted to ask. So the plan development, like the new codes, it could be specifically for the plan development, right? But in this variance, like this is FR1 approved. So how are we trying to, the codes, how does it apply to this FR1 variance versus plan development? Is that it? But I do have that question.
Yeah, so the property is currently zoned FR1. The request is to rezone it to a planned unit development. Planned unit development under the new code is designed to be pretty flexible. It's up to the applicant to propose the uses, the allowed uses, and there are some development standard guidelines in there, but by and large, the applicant is supposed to propose, most of the development standards under the new PUD, so we would be creating, a new zoning district that is unique to this one.
And PUD is designed so that we have should be reference farms, right? That is the uniqueness of why that is there.
Correct, and there's different applications of PUDs. Our old zoning code, we had different kind of buckets of PUDs, but they were all PUDs. We had the single-family plan residential district, a multi-family plan residential district, a commercial district, an industrial district. There were all these subcategories under the new zoning code. We just kind of combined those, and up to the applicant, tell us the standards and uses that you feel are appropriate. Do they align with the comprehensive plan, the zoning code, and the community's expectation, as well as discretion from our commissions and one.
Thank you.
So this entire comprehensive plan and the new zoning code was, I'm just stating this is not a question. So bringing back to some of public comments. The entire code was redesigned and because we are a growing community, right? With growing needs, higher density population. So it makes sense. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify it because through this conversation. Thank you.
Any other further questions, comments from the board? Or from the applicant?
I guess I just would point out, as far as uniqueness goes, this is providing new housing lots for new houses in an area of Orange Township that hasn't had new houses in a long time. It does back up to some open space, so it provides a nice seated backdrop.
All right, close all comments. Time to make a decision.
So as a reminder to the commission, you have 3 options. You can recommend approval, you can recommend approval of modifications, or you can recommend denial. If you do choose the recommendation of approval with modification, we did pre-fill some of those modifications in for you based on staff comments. You can either add to those or delete those as you see.
I'll make a motion, by Les Pierce, recommend the Board of Township Trustees for the denial of zoning application number ZON-26-01, real property design and development LLC, the pages of which are each stamp received with Orange Township zoning, requesting the rezoning of 8.34 plus or minus acres from farm residential FR1 to planned unit development district, including requested divergences of one fund that is not in the interest of public convenience, comfort, prosperity, or general welfare, or sufficiently in accordance with the comprehensive plan.
I second.
Motion is for denial, made by Mr. Pierce, seconded by Ms. Sudar. Any further discussion on the motion? Those voting, Mr. McNulty?
No.
Mr. Lavalley?
No.
Ms. Sudar?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Foster?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, I believe we have one further item of business, approval of some meetings.
We have approval for ZON.
I shouldn't do that.
Motion by Mr. McNulty, seconded by Mr. Robinson. Mr. McNulty. Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Ms. Sudar.
Yes.
Mr. Pierce. Ms. Foster.
Yeah. You put his name like you.
Also mention, we do have a meeting coming up in 2 weeks, 23rd.
I can't write out that word.
Unable to attend, I'll let you know.
Third house in on the lower.
23rd at 6.
I've been on the active line because I've been we planted people. I've been on those.
We'll send out the request for alternates if we do find that we don't have a quorum, then we'll consider that at that time.
So you'll stick to the technical center, which will, then 3 ways. All right, anything else? Anything else?